On a calm Sunday morning, a mother of two, known by many for her kindness and resilience, set out to enjoy one of her favorite pastimes, biking along the mountain trails. But somewhere on that ride, everything changed. Her bike was later discovered against the rocks, her helmet found miles away, and she was nowhere to be seen. What started as the search for a missing wife soon became one of Colorado's most puzzling and debated cases. It uncovered hidden truths, raised unsettling questions, and eventually tore a family apart. Let's get into today's case. Suzanne Morphew was born on April 30th, 1971, in Alexandria, Indiana. She grew up in a quiet household with her parents, her brother Andrew, and her sister Melinda. Life in her small town moved at an easy pace, centered around family and community. During high school, Suzanne met Barry Morphew. At the time, she was in the running for prom queen, while Barry had already made a name for himself as a standout baseball player, talented enough to catch the eye of professional scouts. Their relationship grew quickly, but Barry's hopes of playing professionally ended when he suffered a serious injury. Despite that setback, their bond stayed strong. Both went on to the same university, and by 1994, they were married. Barry launched a landscaping company, while Suzanne began working as a high school teacher. He was seen as a rugged outdoorsman, an avid hunter, and a provider, while Suzanne devoted herself to raising their two daughters, Mallory and Macy. In 2018, the family moved to Colorado, partly to be closer to Mallory as she started college. From the outside, they seemed to have it all: two daughters, a steady income, and the kind of family photos that showed smiles and stability. But Suzanne's story was more than motherhood. She was a two-time cancer survivor, someone who knew how to fight through hardship. In Colorado, she discovered mountain biking, which became one of her passions. Friends described her as warm, genuine, and endlessly kind, someone who always seemed to shine. By 2020, with their youngest daughter nearing the end of high school, it looked like Suzanne and Barry were stepping into a new stage of life. But that spring would bring a turn no one saw coming. On Saturday, May 9th, Barry was said to be in a good mood, even though the couple's marriage had seen some rocky times. That evening passed without incident. The next morning, Mother's Day, Barry left early for a construction job in a nearby town. On that Mother's Day, Suzanne's daughters, Mallory and Macy, were away on a camping trip. Suzanne chose to spend her day doing something she loved, riding her bike. But after leaving home, she never returned. As the hours passed, concern grew. A neighbor noticed Suzanne's car was still parked in the driveway, yet she was nowhere to be found. After failing to locate her bicycle, the neighbor reached out to Barry, who urged her to call 911. Police responded quickly and later discovered Suzanne's bike at the bottom of a small embankment, propped oddly against some rocks. At first glance, it might have looked like an accident, but investigators quickly questioned that theory. If Suzanne had crashed, she would have been injured, but not vanished. A large search effort began. Meanwhile, Barry didn't immediately rush home. Instead, he delivered tools to his crew, handed off a shovel, and arranged hotel rooms for his workers. It wasn't until the evening that he started back, speaking with deputies on the way. They informed him that Suzanne's bike had been recovered. By the time Barry reached the area, nearly 9 o'clock at night, he appeared shaken. Both daughters were back home, but their mother was still missing. A search of the Morphew home revealed no signs of forced entry, damage, or struggle. Days later, however, investigators uncovered something disturbing: Suzanne's helmet, found over a mile away on the side of a highway. It looked as though it had been tossed from a moving vehicle. Suddenly, the theory of a simple biking accident didn't fit anymore. It now seemed possible that Suzanne had been taken. In the days following, Barry released a video message online, pleading for Suzanne's safe return. He promised to do everything he could to bring her home. The family offered a $100,000 reward for information, which was later doubled to $200,000. Barry also shared his version of the last night he saw Suzanne. According to him, they had enjoyed dinner together, been intimate, and gone to bed early. He claimed he woke at 4:30 the next morning for work, and when he left around 5 a.m., Suzanne was still asleep. He drove more than 160 miles to a job site near Denver. Later that morning, both Barry and his daughters sent Suzanne Mother's Day messages, but she never replied. Suzanne's siblings, Andrew and Melinda, were immediately alarmed. They couldn't understand why the daughters hadn't been home with their mom on Mother's Day, especially when she had no other plans. Meanwhile, a neighbor with a social media channel began recording, very near the site where Suzanne's bike was found. In one clip, Barry suggested Suzanne may have been attacked by a mountain lion. Wildlife experts and police quickly ruled this out. An animal attack would have left behind blood, drag marks, or other evidence, none of which was there. Investigators began to wonder if Suzanne had even gone for a bike ride that morning at all. Their suspicions deepened when her sunglasses, hydration pack, driver's license, and credit cards were found inside her car. The only thing missing was her phone. Although Barry continued to meet with investigators and appeared cooperative, the first major lead didn't come from him. 10 days after Suzanne vanished, detectives searching the Morphew home found something unusual in the master bedroom, a device that looked like a regular pen but was actually a hidden recorder. Detectives eventually discovered the hidden pen in Suzanne's room wasn't meant to spy on her, it was meant for her to spy on Barry. She had been given the recorder to capture proof of whether her husband might be unfaithful. Instead, the pen revealed something unexpected. Suzanne herself was secretly involved with another man, identified only as Jeff. This revelation complicated the case. Could Jeff have had a role in Suzanne's disappearance? Or was he simply part of a larger story? As the weeks stretched into months, Suzanne's case became one of the most widely followed missing person investigations in Colorado. Search teams scoured mountains, forests, and reservoirs with no sign of her. By August 2020, Barry spoke to a national news outlet, saying investigators had mishandled the case and describing his wife's disappearance as the most devastating event of his life. His comments reached millions, but authorities remained cautious. Not long after, the mystery man in Suzanne's recordings was finally identified, Jeff Leibler, a married father of 6 living in Michigan. He and Suzanne had known each other briefly after high school but hadn't been in touch for decades, until 2018, when Suzanne reconnected with him shortly after moving to Colorado. She sent him a message out of the blue, saying she missed him. From there, their relationship reignited and quickly grew intense. They began talking daily. Suzanne even traveled across state lines to see him. They exchanged personal photos, talked about marriage, and even fantasized about escaping to another country together. Investigators also learned that Suzanne's very last communication before vanishing had been with Jeff. On May 9th, the day before she was reported missing, Suzanne and Jeff exchanged nearly 60 messages, more than usual. She even sent him a selfie while sunbathing, the last known photo of her alive. That afternoon, she told Jeff she was completely in love with him and agreed to a video call. But shortly after, Barry's name appeared on her phone. He had messaged her saying he was driving back home. Suzanne never responded. Barry followed up again, asking if she had gone out, but there was still no reply. Phone data revealed something unusual about Barry's movements that day. His device showed him circling around the outside of the house, repeatedly moving along its perimeter. When questioned, Barry said he had been chasing squirrels and shooting at them, claiming they were a nuisance. Investigators, however, found no signs of gunfire or dead animals. What Barry considered a casual explanation instead raised serious suspicion. During the investigation, Barry sat for between 30 and 40 interviews with authorities without ever hiring a lawyer. He spoke with local deputies, FBI agents, and investigators at every level, leaving room for contradictions in his story. Meanwhile, Jeff cooperated fully. He admitted he deleted social media accounts to hide the affair, not because he harmed Suzanne, but because he feared damaging her reputation, losing his own family, and risking his job. He provided DNA samples, phone records, and account passwords, all of which confirmed his version of events. His alibi placed him in Michigan with his family the entire weekend. Suzanne disappeared, and investigators were able to verify it. That left the focus squarely on Barry. As investigators dug deeper, they uncovered text messages Suzanne had sent to a close friend. In those messages, she described the strain in her marriage. She confided that Barry refused to discuss divorce, that she felt no peace when he was home, and, perhaps most troubling, that she didn't feel safe being alone with him. The picture of a perfect marriage had begun to unravel. With Jeff ruled out, Detectives increasingly focused on Barry as their primary suspect. When confronted about Suzanne's affair, Barry denied there were ever problems between them, insisting their marriage was fine. That denial only pushed investigators to search harder. Soon, they discovered a deleted message Suzanne had sent Barry just days before she vanished. In it, she admitted she was exhausted, that she didn't care what he chose to do anymore, but that they needed to handle things in a civil way. To investigators, it sounded like Suzanne had finally told Barry she wanted to leave, and they believed that could have triggered him. The timing was striking. With both daughters away camping that weekend, the Morphew house was unusually quiet. Investigators theorized that if Barry acted, that Saturday gave him the perfect chance, time to lash out, clean up, and avoid immediate suspicion. On May 5, 2021, nearly a year after Suzanne disappeared, authorities arrested Barry Morphew. Even without a body, prosecutors charged him with murder, along with allegations of evidence tampering and attempting to influence a public official. According to the complaint, the crime was believed to have taken place sometime between May 9th and May 10th, 2020. Barry pleaded not guilty. As the case moved forward, investigators presented new details during a preliminary hearing. They revealed that on May 9th, parts of Barry's phone activity had gone dark while it was switched into airplane mode. They believed this window gave him the time he needed to kill Suzanne and cover his tracks. To strengthen the case, investigators turned to Barry's truck data. The truck's computer showed activity that clashed with Barry's account. He claimed he went to bed around 8 p.m., but the vehicle had been put in reverse at 9:30 that night, possibly when Suzanne's body was moved. And though Barry said he left home at 5 a.m. the next morning, logs showed the truck doors opening as early as 3:30 a.m. Some data had been lost due to system overrides, but Barry's own explanations filled in some of the gaps. He told investigators that he had left the house earlier than planned because he spotted a herd of elk and turned off his usual route to look at them. Investigators found that detail telling, since it placed him in the very area where Suzanne's bike helmet was later found. They concluded that the helmet had likely been discarded there around 8:10 a.m. on Mother's Day. Searches of the family home added even more troubling evidence. Detectives found a dart gun, empty tranquilizer darts, a capsule of tranquilizer solution, and a needle. Barry's defense argued these items could have been in the house for years, but prosecutors suggested otherwise, that Barry may have used a tranquilizer on Suzanne before killing her. Experts confirmed that tranquilizers, designed for large animals, could cause bruising and, in someone Suzanne's size, would act quickly, dizziness within minutes, hours of unconsciousness, and potentially dangerous breathing issues. No working tranquilizer rifle was found, but Barry admitted to having used them in the past, illegally, tranquilizing deer so he could saw off their antlers and sell them. Investigators later discovered a collection of antlers and deer heads in the Morphew garage, supporting his admission. Suspicion around Barry only deepened when a sheriff's deputy later testified about his behavior. On May 10th, the day Suzanne was reported missing, despite the circumstances, Barry didn't immediately call police or demand answers. His calm, almost detached demeanor struck investigators as unsettling. But the case soon became more complicated. Prosecutors revealed that 3 unidentified DNA profiles were found inside Suzanne's car, including one that partially matched a man tied to sexual assault cases in other states. This raised a chilling possibility that someone other than Barry could have been involved. Still, after an extensive hearing, the judge determined there was enough probable cause to move forward with a trial. In released affidavits, investigators claimed Barry had pursued and controlled Suzanne the same way he had once pursued and controlled animals. Suzanne herself had told others that Barry carried on affairs over the years, giving her even more reason to want out of the marriage. Barry spent months in jail before posting a $500,000 bond in September 2021. He walked free, flanked by his daughters, who continued to support him. He stayed silent at first, but by April 2022, prosecutors made a shocking announcement. They were dropping the charges without prejudice, saying they needed more evidence. Part of what influenced that decision was the forensic evidence. Barry's DNA wasn't found on the tranquilizer capsule. The unidentified male DNA inside Suzanne's car matched neither Barry nor Jeff. This reopened the question. Had Suzanne become the victim of a predator? Barry, meanwhile, pushed back. He filed a $15 million lawsuit against the agencies that arrested him and appeared on national television with his daughters, insisting he was innocent and had always loved his wife and children. But controversy followed him. He was later charged with election fraud for casting a ballot in Suzanne's name. He pled guilty and avoided prison through a deal. Then, in September 2023, a major development. Suzanne's remains were found in a remote area of Colorado. Beside her body were her cycling clothes and a bullet, though investigators couldn't say whether it had been used. Barry released a statement through his attorney, saying he and his daughters were devastated, as they had clung to hope that Suzanne might one day come home. Nearly a year later, in August 2024, the coroner's report was released. It confirmed Suzanne's death was violent. She had been under the influence of powerful tranquilizers, drugs designed to immobilize wildlife. There were no signs of physical trauma, but the drugs themselves painted a grim picture. Barry had already admitted to using the same type of tranquilizers on deer so he could saw off their antlers and sell them. The family's garage, filled with mounted heads and antlers, confirmed his history. Prosecutors argued that Barry was the only person in Colorado who had access to those specific substances at the time. On June 20th, 2025, Barry Morphew was arrested again, this time charged with first-degree murder. Prosecutors revealed new evidence, including surveillance footage showing Barry making multiple trips to dumpsters on the morning of May 10th, 2020. He was seen discarding items believed to be tied to tranquilizers, making 5 separate stops that day, all while supposedly working. Investigators admitted they couldn't recover what he threw away, but the repeated pattern left a disturbing impression. Prosecutors also alleged that in the weeks leading up to Suzanne's disappearance, Barry had harassed her, trying to confirm his suspicions about an affair. They claimed he went so far as to destroy evidence of their troubled marriage. The drugs found in Suzanne's system required prescriptions, and records showed Barry had obtained them years earlier, before the family moved to Colorado. At that time, investigators argued he was the only person in the state with access to those particular substances. Now, as of September 2025, Barry Morphew is awaiting trial. After years of twists, setbacks, and heartbreak, the case is finally edging toward resolution. One question remains at the heart of it all. Will a jury be convinced, beyond doubt, that Barry murdered his wife?